Thank you for joining the September EDIC board meeting, which is being held virtually to ensure the safety of the public, staff members, and the BPDA board members during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. Also at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 1962. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. So to begin the meeting, I will take a roll call of members. I, Priscilla Rojas, am present. Ms. Downs.
Present.
Mr. Monahan.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
Okay, great. When we finish the roll, we are going to start with the first item on the EDIC agenda. Request authorization for the approval of the minutes of August 13th, 2020. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We'll now take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 2. Request authorization to advertise and issue a request for qualifications pursuant to MGLC 7C for designer services for the 12 Channel Street stair pressurization project within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. William.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is William Epperson, Deputy Director for Capital Construction within the Real Estate Division. I am before you today to request authorization to advertise and issue a request for qualifications pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws Chapter 7C to procure a designer for the stairwell pressurization project for the 12 Channel Street building located in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. 12 Channel Street is a 9-story masonry building originally constructed by the U.S. military in 1941 as a storehouse in the South Boston Naval Annex. It is currently a light industrial manufacturing building with several tenants. The building has 5 stairwells, 3 of which are egress towers serving all 9 floors. With the evolution of building and life safety codes, the stairwells require upgrades and improvements to bring them into conformance with current code. Namely, the 3 tower stairwells require the installation of a pressurization system to keep the stairwells free of smoke in the event of a building fire. The resulting design contract is budgeted at $180,000 and will include an assessment of all 5 stairwells for compliance with current codes, identifying all deficiencies and proposed solutions to reach compliance. Plans and specifications will be prepared in accordance with Chapter 149 of the Massachusetts General Laws. The contract will also include bidding assistance, resident engineering services, and construction administration. This request for qualifications will be advertised following the Commonwealth of Massachusetts requirements under Massachusetts General Laws Chapter 7C, which governs procurement for design services for vertical construction. This opportunity will also be posted on the BPDA website and bulletin boards, the Boston Herald, the state's Combi system, and marketed with MBE, WBE firms and various online trade publications. The design contract will be awarded to the top-ranked designer through a qualifications-based selection process after being brought back to the board for approval. The subsequent construction improvements currently budgeted in the $1 million range and included in the current fiscal year budget will be publicly bid in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws Chapter 149 and would also be brought back before the board prior to approval to advertise. Therefore, we are requesting that the Secretary be authorized to advertise and issue a request for qualifications to procure design services for this project. Thank you, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Okay, thank you, William. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3. Request authorization to amend the lease agreement with Boston Print Specialists LLC, doing business as Alpha Graphics Boston, for the use of the 7,342 square feet on the 8th floor of 12 Channel Street, Suite 804, within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. In August 2017, the BPDA approved a lease agreement with Alpha Graphics Boston, which is a franchisee of Boston Print Specialists LLC, an international chain of marketing service providers with full-service print shops. Suite 804 at 12 Channel Street is a large open space with one office and air conditioning. It has been utilized by Alpha Graphics Boston for the marketing, design, and production of print materials and signs, as well as a supporting office. The initial term of the lease is for 8 years and will expire on August 31st, 2025. Alpha Graphics has a right to extend the term of the lease for one 7-year period until August 31st, 2032. Alpha Graphics currently pays fixed rent to the BPDA, calculated at $20.50 per square foot, or $12,542.58 monthly. Due to current economic conditions that are a direct result of COVID-19, Alpha Graphics is suffering from considerable revenue loss. Alpha Graphics has requested that the BPDA renegotiate and amend the terms of the 2017 lease agreement to help with the loss in revenue and their inability to pay the monthly fixed rent. By September 31, 2020, Alpha Graphics will owe the BPDA a total of $117,756.58 in arrears. After several meetings between Alpha Graphics and the BPDA, Alpha Graphics has agreed to changes in their monthly rent payments, which will address the arrears and get Alpha Graphics back on track and current in their rent. Beginning October 1st, 2020, and ending on August 31st, 2022, Alpha Graphics will continue to make their agreed upon monthly rent payments as outlined in the lease agreement. The amount will be $12,542.58 monthly. Beginning in September 1st, 2022, and ending on August 31st, 2025, Alpha Graphics will make their agreed upon monthly rent payments as outlined in the lease agreement, plus an additional amount, which is approximately $3,000 per month, that will address the arrearage. By August 31st, 2025, Alpha Graphics will have paid the total arrears.
Maureen,
Yes.
I need to stop you for a second. We're having a sound issue on Boston Cable and all of the feeds. So we need to pause the meeting right now while Boston Cable TV tries to figure out what's going on. I'm sorry.
Okay. Nope, it's okay.
YouTube feed. There may be some problems with the video. It could just be a little bit stretched out, but you should still be able to see it just fine. If there are any issues, you can send a request to bpdaboard@boston.gov, and we'll send you the link for the Zoom meeting. It is also available on our website on the board page. You can find it there as well. But we will pick up the meeting with a roll call, and then Maureen will restart her presentation.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Teresa. Thanks all for your patience. Okay, so we're going to take a roll call just to after recess. So Ms. Downs.
Present.
Mr. Monahan.
Present.
Dr. Landsmark.
Present.
Mr. Miller.
Present.
Okay, and I am the chair. Priscilla Rojas is present. Okay, so we're going to ask Maureen to pick up where she left off on agenda number item 3 from the EDIC agenda.
Priscilla, why don't you reread it, and then Maureen can just start her presentation again.
Okay. So item number 3, request authorization to amend the lease agreement with Boston Print Specialists, LLC, doing business as Alpha Graphics Boston, for the use of the 7,342 square feet on the 8th floor of 12 Channel Street, Suite 804, within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. In August 2017, the BPDA approved a lease agreement with Alpha Graphics Boston, which is a franchisee of Boston Print Specialists, LLC, an international chain of marketing service providers with full-service print shops. Suite 804 at 12 Channel Street is a large open space with one office and air conditioning. It has been utilized by Alpha Graphics for the marketing, design, and production of print materials and signs, as well as the supporting office. The initial term of the lease is for 8 years and will expire on August 31st, 2025. Alpha Graphics has a right to extend the term of the lease for one 7-year period until August 31st, 2032. Alpha Graphics currently pays fixed rent to the BPDA, calculated at $20.50 per square foot, or $12,542.58 per month. Due to current economic conditions that are a direct result of COVID-19, Alpha Graphics is suffering from considerable revenue loss. Alpha Graphics has requested that the BPDA renegotiate and amend the terms of the 2017 lease agreement to help with the loss in revenue and their inability to pay the monthly fixed rent. By September 30th, Alpha Graphics will owe the BPDA a total of $117,756.58 in arrears. After several meetings between Alpha Graphics and the BPDA, Alpha Graphics has agreed to changes to their monthly rent payments, which will address the arrears and get Alpha Graphics back on track and current in their rent. Beginning October 1st, 2020, and ending August 31st, 2022, roughly almost a 2-year period, Alpha Graphics will continue to make their agreed upon monthly rent payments as outlined in the lease agreement. Beginning September 1st, 2022, and ending August 31st, 2025, Alpha Graphics will make their agreed upon monthly rent payments as outlined in the lease agreement, plus an additional amount of rent, approximately $3,000 per month, that will address the arrearage. By August 31st, 2025, Alpha Graphics will have paid the total arrears of $117,756.58. With the revised rental payment structure, Alpha Graphics will have paid the entire contractual fixed rent obligation by the initial lease term expiration. The contractual fixed rent amount as established in 2018 is $1,233,456. In closing, BPDA staff recommended amendment to the lease agreement with Alpha Graphics, Boston, 12 Channel Street, Suite 804. Thank you.
Unmute. Thank you, Maureen. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Maureen. Item number 4, request authorization to approve the 1-year option fixed term rent for Light Boxer Technologies Incorporated, continued use of 2,928 square feet on the 8th floor of 12 Channel Street, Suite 805, within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you. In October 2019, the BPDA approved a 1-year lease agreement with Lightboxer Technologies for Suite 805, which included a 1-year option to extend the lease term. Suite 805 and 12 Channel Street is approximately 2,928 square feet, located on the 8th floor of the building. The space has an open floor plan with a single conference room and is air conditioned. Lightboxer is currently developing boxing-related exercise equipment. The suite is being used for prototype development, filming, and testing. Lightboxer has exercised the single 1-year option term, which will commence on October 1st, 2020, and expire on September 30th, 2021. The option term of the lease requires that, if exercised, The rental rate will be negotiated to reflect the current market conditions. BPDA staff recently conducted a market analysis and has determined that the fair market value for Suite 805 in its current condition is approximately $25 per square foot based on a triple net lease, which is rent plus electricity and the proportionate share of operating costs. Lightboxer shall continue to pay the fixed rent to BPDA, calculated at $25 per square foot or $6,100 per month. In closing, BPDA staff recommend the one-year option term fixed rent of $25 per square foot for Lightboxer for the continued use of 12 Channel Street, Suite 805. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Maureen. But there's another one. So item number 5, request authorization to amend the lease agreement with the Mass Iraq and Afghanistan Fallen Heroes Memorial Fund for the continued use of the 7,131 square feet on the 6th floor of 12 Channel Street, Suite 603, within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the September 2019 board meeting, the Massachusetts Iraq and Afghanistan Fallen Heroes Memorial Fund received approval to lease Suite 603, which is approximately 7,131 square feet in size and has 2 sections. One is a large open unfinished space, about 70%, with no improvements and no air conditioning system. The other portion is an office space, about 30%, with 3 separate rooms and an older air conditioning system. Mass Fallen Heroes agreed to take the space in as-is condition and make a substantial investment of approximately $1.2 million to be raised in an aggressive capital campaign. Proposed improvements include, but are not limited to, new windows, interior walls, air conditioning, paint, and carpet. Mass Fallen Heroes is a locally funded 501c3 corporation chartered for the purpose of honoring military servicemen and women who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan since September 11, 2001. Mass Fallen Heroes catalyzed the construction of the Massachusetts Fallen Heroes Memorial, also known as the Obelisk, located on Seaport Common, a park located between Seaport Boulevard and Northern Ave that is part of the Seaport Square project. The memorial was completed in 2016. The existing lease with Mass Fallen Heroes has a 5-year initial term, which commenced on October 1st, 2019, and shall expire on September 30th, 2024, with one one-year option term. Mass Fallen Heroes pays fixed rent to BPDA, calculated at $3,000 per month, for the entire 7,131 square foot suite, in exchange for the improvements referenced above, which will be funded entirely by Mass Fallen Heroes and its supporters. WS Development, which partners with Mass Fallen Heroes to maintain the memorial obelisk, has made a commitment to provide Mass Fallen Heroes with program space in a new development on land owned by WS in Boston Seaport. It was anticipated at the start of the initial 5-year term at 12 Channel Street that WS would be able to provide Mass Fallen Heroes with the space to house its programs within 5 years. However, with the negative impact on commercial real estate caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, including a dramatic increase in supply of available space via sublease, it is conceivable that WS may not break ground on a new development in time to provide Mass Fallen Heroes with program space prior to the expiration of the initial 5-year term. While BPDA has complete confidence in WS's ability and commitment to provide space for Mass Fallen Heroes, the new Mass Fallen Heroes program space may not be available for an extended period of time, depending on market factors and the phasing of WS master plan development. Due to current economic conditions discussed above, as fundraising opportunities and gatherings and events have been very limited and previously banned by the City of Boston, Mass Fallen Heroes has requested that the BPDA renegotiate the terms of the lease to help with the loss in revenue, which would ultimately pay for the substantial investment into Suite 603. Mass Fallen Heroes has requested to keep the 5-year initial term of their lease and to change the originally agreed upon one-year option term to a 5-year option term, commencing on October 1st, 2024, and expiring on September 30th, 2029. For the initial 5-year term, Mass Fallen Heroes will continue to pay $3,000 per month, and the BPDA will receive $180,000 in payments, plus the agreed upon investment of approximately $1.2 million in improvements. Mass Fallen Heroes will continue to occupy Suite 702 while improvements are underway in Suite 603. Mass Fallen Heroes has agreed to complete the previously agreed and approved investment into Suite 603 before the expiration date of the current term, which is September 30th, 2024. If Mass Fallen Heroes reaches this improvement milestone by September 30th, 2024, Mass Fallen Heroes will continue to make monthly payments in the amount of $3,000 until the expiration of the option term. If Mass Fallen Heroes does not reach this milestone, Mass Fallen Heroes has agreed to vacate Suite 603 or to pay market rate rent on the commencement of the option term beginning at $32 triple net per square foot with the 5% annual escalation until September 30th, 2029, in which case BPDA would receive more than $1,140,960 in payments. In closing, BPDA staff recommend an amendment to the lease agreement between the BPDA and Mass Fallen Heroes to change the 1-year option term to a 5-year option term, as well as the fixed rent structure and milestone date, in order to allow Mass Fallen Heroes to raise the funds required to improve Suite 603 and 12 Channel Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Great. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Maureen. Item number 6. Request authorization to amend the lease agreement with Greenside Ergonomics for the use of 10,000 rentable square feet located on the 6th floor of 12 Channel Street, Suite 605, within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you. In August 2017, the BPDA approved a lease agreement with Greenside Agronomics, GSA, for Suite 605 at 12 Channel Street. Suite 605 is a large open suite consisting of approximately 10,000 square feet of space. GSA offers autonomous aerial data collection hardware and data analysis software tools that support a wide variety of industries and applications, from smart agriculture to turf grass analysis for land managers and golf courses. GSA utilizes Suite 605 to build drones and provide the flight monitoring and office support to administer their data analysis platform business. GSA's existing lease is for a 5-year initial term with one 5-year option. The lease commenced on October 1st, 2017, and will expire on December 1st, 2022. GSA currently pays fixed rent of $30 per square foot or $25,000 monthly. Fixed rent increases annually by $1 per square foot. From lease commencement to December 2019, GSA made timely rental payments. At that time, GSA fell into arrears due to a decline in federal government contracts that resulted in a short-term cash flow issue. GSA has since secured multiple contracts, and the projections for the next few years are quite optimistic. GSA has made timely rental payments since May 2020, and BPDA feels that GSA is now on more firm financial ground. However, they do not have the sufficient reserves to pay the balance owed, approximately $230,000 in one lump sum. The cash flow projections indicate an ability to meet the monthly contract rent, however. For the following reasons, BPDA staff believes that it is both in its financial interest and consistent with its job creation mission to extend GSA's lease term at new rates, rather than evict GSA and attempt to find a new tenant. BPDA market analysis indicates that the contract rent payable by GSA at $31 per square foot exceeds the current market rate. If BPDA if BPDA evicted GSA, BPDA should expect several months of receiving no cash flow for what would be a now vacant suite. BPDA would probably be responsible to pay a real estate brokerage commission to the representative of a new tenant, and BPDA would most likely be expected to either contribute financially to the build-out of the space required for a new tenant, also called a tenant improvement allowance, and or offer a discounted rent as well as free rent period in lieu of paying the tenant improvement allowance. After several meetings between GSA and the BPDA, GSA has agreed to changes in their monthly rent payments beginning October 2020 and ending on December 31st, 2026, which will address the arrears and get GSA back on track and current in their rent. By December 31, 2026, BPDA will receive $1,970,000, which is reflective of the current market rate for Suite 605 and a total repayment of the arrearage accumulated in 2020. The median rental rate for the amended lease will be $33.30 per square foot triple net, where BPDA believes that the post-COVID-19 market today would be approximately $26 per square foot triple net as is. The additional rate paid by GSA between the $26 and the $33.30 is in consideration of the accumulated arrearage. The existing lease will expire on December 31st, 2020. However, BPDA and GSA have agreed to extend the lease to December 31st, 2026. Upon this new termination date of the amended lease, GSA will have paid off the accumulated arrearage, which is incorporated into the fixed rent during the amended lease term. In closing, BPDA staff recommends an amendment to the lease agreement with GSA for 12 Channel Street, Suite 605.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay,
No,
hearing.
sounds like a good solution.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs,
Aye.
Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Lensmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 7, request authorization to approve the assignment of lease with ICCNEI LLCs to Vertex Pharmaceuticals Incorporated for use of 4.718 acres of land located at 1 Harbor Street within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Maureen.
Thank you. ICCNE 1 LLC and the BPDA are party to a ground lease dated August 1st, 2005, pursuant to which ICCNE has a ground lease on 1 Harbor Street in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park, which consists of 4.71 acres of land. ICCNE developed this land into a state-of-the-art forwarding and cargo distribution facility consisting of approximately 212,500 square feet of floor space. The subtenants of this building include Vertex Pharmaceuticals, Kuhn & Nagel, and other companies involved in freight forwarding, logistic, and supply chain management. The original term of the lease runs through May 31st, 2048, and the lease includes 3 10-year extension options. The lease term allows the tenant to assign the lease to another party with the consent of the BPDA and stipulates that such consent shall not be unreasonably withheld. ICCNE recently informed the BPDA that it has agreed to assign the lease and the improvements thereupon to Vertex Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, an existing tenant at 1 Harbor Street. Vertex will assume all of ICCNE's rights, liabilities, and obligations under the lease. Vertex will continue to maintain their existing operations within the building. Founded in 1989 in Cambridge, Mass., Vertex Global Headquarters is now located in Boston's Innovation District. Vertex is a global biotechnology company that invests in scientific innovation to create transformative medicines for people with serious diseases. Vertex has multiple approved medicines that are currently being used to treat these diseases. Vertex is consistently recognized as one of the industry's top places to work, including 10 consecutive years on Science's magazine's top employers list and top 5 on the 2019 Best Employers for Diversity list by Forbes. In light of the foregoing, BPDA staff recommends that the director be authorized to execute all appropriate documentation to approve the assignment of the lease agreement for 1 Harbor Street to Vertex Pharmaceuticals Incorporated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, request authorization to amend the ground lease with Coastal Cement Corporation to extend both the term expiration date and the deadline for Coastal Cement to exercise the third option term until December 31st, 2020 for 36 Dry Dock Avenue within the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Coastal Cement Corporation has been a tenant in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park since 1985. You may recognize them by the 4 giant cement silos that you can see quite prominently from Boston Harbor. Cement is manufactured in Portland, Maine, and it is barged down to Boston where it is loaded into the silos. It's a true 100% maritime industrial use. The initial 1985 lease was scheduled to expire in 2010 with several 5-year option terms. The fixed rent during each term is not predetermined, but is negotiated during the last year of the current option term. The option term we're currently in was scheduled to commence in June 2020. However, in January 2020, the BPDA board voted to extend the deadline to exercise the option to September 30th of 2020. That vote was in June, not January. The reason that we requested the extension was that BPDA has been negotiating a 4-party agreement that, until finalized, precludes completing the negotiations with Coastal Cement. That agreement involves the Massachusetts Port Authority, the Davis Companies, Boston Planning and Development, and Coastal Cement. Generally speaking, BPDA will recapture some of the land from the Coastal Cement site and lease it to Massport, who will in turn sublease it to the Davis Companies to help support their redevelopment of 88 Black Falcon Avenue, which is owned by Massport and leased to Davis Companies. Davis plans to add an additional 300,000 square feet to the existing 400,000 square foot footprint of the building. Given all the moving parts in the particular 3-pronged transaction, we'd like to get the negotiations with Massport finalized before turning our sole attention to Coastal Cement. In as much as the Davis Companies, Massport, and BPDA are all commercial landlords in our own right, we collectively lost some traction while tending to the financial pressures of our tenants due to the COVID-19 forced economic shutdown. We're asking for an extension of the deadline for Coastal to exercise the third 5-year option until December 31st of 2020 in order to keep them in compliance with the lease. We are in very active negotiations with Massport, the Davis Companies, and Coastal Cement. It's a priority for us. It's on the top of our to-do list, and we're fully engaged with all parties right now. We anticipate bringing both of these transactions back to the board in advance of the proposed December 31st deadline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Do we have any questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, request authorization to enter into a contract with Williamson Electrical Company Incorporation pursuant to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Operation Services Division contract TRD04, tradesperson installation, repair, maintenance services for pump and motor services for dry dock pump replacement and maintenance at dry dock 4, located in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park, in an amount not to exceed $93,454. Laura.
Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, and members of the board, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you virtually today. I'm requesting your authorization to award a contract to Williamson Electrical Company to replace and maintain 2 pumps at Dry Dock Number 4, which is located in the Raymond L. Flynn Marine Park. The initial term of the contract is for 1 year in an amount not expected to exceed $93,454. The contract would also have 2 one-year options to extend at the sole discretion of the BPDA for a total 3-year cost not to exceed $190,000. This contract will help the real estate team ensure high standards for maintenance while also maintaining the value of our property. As background, Dry Dock Number 4 in the Marine Park has been deactivated, and so it requires pumps to keep the water level low and ensure the caisson or door remains closed and upright. The original dewatering pumps no longer function and must be replaced with new pumps, which will be placed in the basin of the dry dock. Specifically, we'll purchase 2 pumps and we're actually going to rotate and swap them out. The contract includes swapping the pumps, servicing and testing them, and periodically visiting the dry dock for inspections. We issued a solicitation for quotes on August 18th, leveraging the statewide contract, as the chairwoman mentioned, TRD 04 for pump and motor services. That statewide contract includes 4 vendors who provide services statewide. We held a virtual pre-submission conference and we arranged for small, socially distanced site visits with 2 companies. 1 quote was received from Williamson by the September 1st deadline. This quote aligns with our engineer's cost estimate, and it also includes relevant and impressive references. However, I want to take a moment to highlight that we're striving to increase participation in our procurement opportunities to align with both state contract guidelines, but more importantly with BPDA policy goals, which I know are a priority for this board as well. So therefore, after receiving only 1 response, we conducted a debrief with the second vendor who had done a site visit, but who chose not to respond. We also had a meeting with the state contract manager in their operational services division. What I can tell you at a high level is that uncertainty related to COVID-19 was certainly a factor, but we are also reevaluating our use of statewide contracts as opposed to the more standard procurement practice of publicly advertising our procurement opportunities. So we're really looking forward to implementing some new strategies for our upcoming procurements, and I'd be happy to discuss that in more detail. I also want to specifically thank our procurement team and our law department for their collaboration on all of these debriefs and the really sort of deep thinking that's going into this process. But in the meantime, we do have confidence that this contract will provide all the required services at a great value, and therefore we recommend award of this contract to Williamson Electrical Company. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have one question. Who was the second person that chose not to bid, Laura?
Yes, great question. I believe the company name is Gustavo Preston. Let me see if I can pull it up right here. If you want to get into more details about why they didn't respond, they did have a variety of factors, and they were good about talking those through with us as well as with the state.
No, I'm fine. I was just curious who it was.
I think Gustavo Preston is the name. Yeah.
I'm curious as to whether a change in our procurement practices to move away from the existing policy, or at least the existing practice, is likely to produce more bids from women-owned and firms owned by people of color. I recognize that this is very specialized work, but I also wonder whether there may not be ways of subcontracting out parts of this work to give a boost to local firms.
I think that's absolutely top of mind, not only for the real estate department, but definitely for the BPDA's procurement department and legal department and everybody else who's working on this. I think, one of my #1 goals is to increase the diversity of our vendors, and diversity has a lot of dimensions, whether it's folks we haven't worked with before or folks who have a more innovative approach. But I think one of the most important dimensions is obviously Boston-based, woman-owned, minority-owned, also veteran-owned businesses. And so one thing that we're thinking about a lot is, what are the requirements that are in our procurements to the extent that they're at all flexible, while still guaranteeing that we're getting great services at a great value. Also thinking about outreach, as I mentioned, and how we can partner up. You'll hear me present later during the BRA section of the meeting about partnering up with the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, thinking about, especially in this age of COVID-19 and public health restrictions, how can we still engage with vendors so that folks who might not have worked with us before or who might not, quote unquote, know how to play the game, that they can still get that intelligence. And also, to your point, that they can do some matchmaking if it's more of like a partnership or a subcontractor situation. So we've been trying to have really interactive virtual conferences and then also small one-on-one site visits. And then also just thinking about how we scope things. Some contracts are more attractive than others based on how much money is involved and where the different properties are, and things like that. So again, I'd love to get into a lot more detail about that on future procurements, but we're hoping this is all with an eye to working with more women and minority-owned businesses. Absolutely.
Right?
Hey, Ted's 100% correct as far as being specialized. There's not many companies that do that, and this company's been successful at purchasing their competitors. They bought New England Motor, and then there was another company, Water Waste Equipment. So they've done a good job at purchasing their competitors. So there's not a lot of people that do this type of work.
It's helpful to know. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from the board? Okay, seeing and hearing none, a motion is in order.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Laura, and thank you for all the additional detail and informing us of your efforts to achieve our agency's goals, as well as the goals of the city. So I like that you're getting creative and kind of doing things you've never done before. I appreciate that. So thank you, Laura. Okay, item number 10, personnel. We have Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Jamie Lamarca within the Human Resources Department. We have a few items for your consideration under the EDIC agenda. One status change to Cara Hamilton, BRJP, compliance analyst within the compliance department, with a retroactive and temporary salary adjustment implemented September 14th, 2020. We have 3 employment service contractors, Sarah Michaud, Andre Aquino, and Aisha Moore, all financial navigators within the Office of Workforce Development. And we additionally have 2 departures, Samantha Medeiros, Junior Finance Coordinator with a resignation effective August 17th, 2020, and Fatima Asadi, Development Coordinator with a resignation effective August 21st, 2020. All the details to these are listed within the board memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. So do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call for a vote. Oh, yeah, that's Ms. Downs. Sorry, there's a bog dart. It's really distracting me. Sorry. Okay, we're doing a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so motion passes.
Thank you.
And that was the final item on our EDIC agenda. So I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn the EDIC meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Meeting adjourned. Okay. So, we are now going to begin the BPDA portion of the meeting. So, thank you for joining the September BPDA board meeting. which is being held virtually to ensure the safety of the public, staff members, and the BPDA board members during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Open Public Meeting Law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications, at Xfinity Channel 24, RCN Channel 13, and Verizon Fios Channel 1962. It's also being live streamed at boston.gov/cable. So I'll now take a roll call for the BPDA meeting. Ms. Downs?
Present.
Mr. Monahan?
Present.
Dr. Landsmark?
Present.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Present.
Okay. And I, Priscilla Rojas, am present. Great. So item number 1 on the BPDA agenda, request authorization for the approval of the minutes of the August 13th, 2020 meeting. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. I'm going to read the next 3 items in a row and take one vote. These are schedulings of public hearings. Item number 2, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on October 15th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the master plan for plan development area number 128-776 Summer Street in South Boston. Number 3, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on October 15th, 2020 at 5:40 p.m. or at a date and time to be determined by the director to consider the amended and restated master plan for plan development area number 87, Boston Landing, and conforming amendments to each of the development plans of the 5 proposed projects within Boston Landing project proposed by Boston Landing LLC. Item number 4, request authorization to schedule a public hearing on October 15th, 2020 at 5:50 p.m. or at a date and time determined by the director to consider 1, the second amendment and restated master plan for plan development area number 94, Bartlett Place, Washington Street and Bartlett Street, Roxbury. Number 2, the second amendment and restated phase 1 development plan within such plan development area number 94, and 3, the phase 4 development plan within such plan development area number 94. So we will now, a motion is in order for those 3 items.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll take roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 5, Board of Appeal, Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Jeff Hampton, Senior Zoning Planner. For this month's board meeting, we have prepared 80 recommendations to be transmitted to the Board of Appeal. This will cover 4 meetings, 3 in September and their first meeting in October. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have an overall question, Jeff. Do you see single-family properties being able to turn into 2 or 3 or 4-family properties? Do you see density happening through the Board of Appeals?
Not from 1 family to 2 families. There's always appeals going from 2s to 3s, 3 to 4s. A lot of knockdowns that we've been seeing lately, but going from 1s to 2s, that's very rare only because there aren't a lot of pockets of 1 families in the city. And usually, knowing those areas, they're very fickle about increasing the density from a 1 family to a 2.
But would you say overall that there's more density happening in this small scale way as opposed to bigger apartments?
Yeah, whether it be increasing the number of units, adding a dormer, having expanding living space into the basement, yes, I would say there's an increase in density.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs,
Aye.
Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with Black Owl Incorporated for the use of approximately 2,000 square feet of land in the Charlestown Navy Yard for seasonal outdoor restaurant seating through March 31st, 2021. Lauren.
I think I got this. Sorry.
No worries.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. In 2018, after more than 15 years in business, the Navy Yard Bistro, located within building number 34 in the Charlestown Navy Yard, closed its doors. The lease was purchased by Black Owl LLC, the owners of the popular Brewer's Fork restaurant nearby on Moulton Street in Charlestown. The new owners plan to open a wine-focused restaurant in the former bistro space. Theirs will be an American-style bistro restaurant with seasonal food selections, plus an adjacent grab-and-go sandwich shop. After delays caused by COVID-19, the new restaurant, which is yet to be named, is scheduled to open in October 2020. Black Owl LLC has requested to use the license area on 2nd Avenue adjacent to their unnamed restaurant for seasonal outdoor dining. The license area is adjacent to Building 34, within 2nd Avenue between 6th and 7th Street in the Charlestown Navy Yard. The area is maintained as pedestrian promenade, and to maintain the public use of the space, the licensed area will not extend more than 30 feet from the back of the building and will not exceed more than 70 feet in length from the corner of the building. Mayor Walsh recently announced that the licensing board for the city of Boston has taken steps to streamline processes and remove restrictions to help small businesses and restaurants as part of the COVID-19 reopening process. These changes allow businesses to temporarily expand outdoor space on both public and private property. Restaurants taking advantage of the opportunity to temporarily expand into the City of Boston property are not charged a fee for use by the City of Boston. For consistency with the mayor's executive order pertaining to the City of Boston owned property, staff is recommending that no charge be imposed on Black Owl LLC. They'll be responsible for obtaining any and all permits and licenses which may be required in order for the use of the licensed premises. They're also to be in full compliance with all state, local, and federal laws and codes with special attention to the current COVID-19 restrictions. We're asking that the board allow the director to enter into a license agreement with Black Owl LLC to use approximately 2,850 square feet of open space owned by the VRA adjacent to Building 34 in the Charlestown Navy Yard for seasonal outdoor restaurant seating until March 31st, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have a question, Lauren. Why March? I mean, they're getting outdoor use for the winter, and then when they could use it, it seems like the lease will end.
I have a question essentially.
It's just when we generally do the seasons for this type of agreement, Chart House has the same sort of time period, so it's just easier when we're redoing them to have them all expire at the same time.
So when they expire, will they be able to use it in April, or would there be a bureaucratic?
Oh, absolutely. We're preparing to have a discussion for April 1st to see what the situation looks like next year in respect to COVID regulations and business terms.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any additional questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs,
Aye.
Mr. Monahan,
Aye.
Dr. Landmark,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Item number 7, request authorization to amend the license agreement with the Courageous Sailing Center of Boston Incorporated for a youth sailing program for the continued use of a portion of BRA-owned land located at Pier 4 in the Charlestown Navy Yard for December 31st, 2021. Lauren.
Courageous Sailing Center of Boston Incorporated has been a tenant on Pier 4 in the Charlestown Navy Yard for almost 20 years. They're a 501c3 public charity that provides opportunity for children in the city of Boston to learn the sport of sailing without any fees. Courageous Sailing Center programs serve over 1,500 young people a year. In August 1992, the BRA and the city of Boston, acting by and through the city parks department, executed a license agreement for the use of a portion of Pier 4 for the purpose of conducting a youth sailing program. On September 21st, 2010, the BRA board authorized a new license agreement with Courageous Sailing for Pier 4 to allow for a term of 5 years from August 1st, 2011, extending until July 31st, 2016. This agreement also removed the city as a party to the license agreement. Beginning in August of 2017, the BPDA board has voted 3 times to extend the license with Courageous Sailing for 1-year terms. The most recent term, approved August 15th, 2019, is due to expire September 30th this year. The BPDA, along with National Park Service, is contemplating the future of Pier 4 to determine the best path forward and considering necessary infrastructure improvements. Courageous Sailing is working cooperatively with the BPDA planners and the National Park Service to develop a plan that considers the long-term success and use of Pier 4. Extending the existing license until December 31st, 2021 will allow Courageous Sailing to continue to offer the valuable services to children while planning efforts continue. BPDA staff recommends that the director be authorized to amend the existing license between BPDA and Courageous Sailing Incorporated to extend the expiration date until December 31st, 2021. All terms and conditions of the existing license shall remain in effect, including the provision that Courageous Sailing indemnify and hold harmless the BPDA against any liability associated with their use of Pier 4. There's no fee associated with this license agreement.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
Second?
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Okay, and good luck to Courageous. I'm a big fan of the work that they do, so send them our regards. Great, item number 8, request authorization to enter into a license agreement with the City of Boston for the temporary use of a portion of the more commonly known Blair lot. Lauren.
Since November 2019, the Boston Police Department's Street Outreach Unit has coordinated monthly outreach days in locations throughout the city of Boston to focus resources towards individuals who may be seeking recovery and/or support in dealing with substance use disorder, mental illness, and homelessness. Up to 100 people have attended each of these events and were subsequently provided access to care throughout the city of Boston. Sponsored service providers include the City of Boston's Office of Recovery Services, the Pine Street Inn, and Newmarket Square Business Association. On behalf of the above referenced collective partners, the City of Boston, through the Mayor's Office, has requested the periodic and temporary use of a portion of the Blair lot on pre-scheduled days throughout the balance of the calendar year 2020 to conduct street outreach event programming. The license term shall begin on September 1st, 2020, and shall expire December 31st, 2020. Tentative scheduled use of the parcel will be each Wednesday from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. However, the City of Boston may alter this schedule to meet specific community needs or requests. The City of Boston acknowledges that they are familiar with the Blair lot and will not interfere with the day-to-day operation of the surrounding lot areas, and further agree to maintain the portion of the Blair lot in question in a clean, safe, and orderly condition, and leave the lot free of debris and trash at the end of each event. Staff is recommending that the City of Boston be permitted to use a portion of the BPDA lot in Nubian Square to accommodate this important outreach program. Also, due to the public nature of the use, no fee is proposed.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board?
Could you comment on what other uses the Blair lot is available for, including community-based activities?
Absolutely. Next month, actually, I'll be bringing some more Blair Lot fun to your attention. There's some community markets that will be taking place throughout the end of the summer and fall. This particular part of the lot that the city is requested to use is across the street and wouldn't interfere with any of the other planned events in the Blair Lot, and also accommodates for anything else that would need to come in during that time.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, seeing and hearing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, request authorization to enter into a contract with the Northeastern Tree Service Incorporated for arborist services at BRA-owned properties citywide in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Laura.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for having me back in front of the board. As you stated, I'm requesting your authorization to award a contract to Northeastern Tree Services for arborist services at BRA-owned properties citywide. The initial term of the contract is for 1 year, with 2 one-year options to extend at the BPDA's sole discretion, and the contract value would not exceed $50,000 per year. These services help the real estate team manage BPDA property as if we lived next door, particularly with changing seasons and weather and property, hundreds of parcels that are spread across the city. Specifically, this contract includes specialized labor and equipment needed for tree trimming, pruning, removal, planting, and stump cuts, along with additional consulting and inspections. The contract has very specific standards that are based on best practices. We did a lot of benchmarking with other jurisdictions, including the city's Parks Department. We issued the invitation for bid on July 8th and advertised it in several local multilingual publications, as well as all legally required postings. We also collaborated with the Mayor's Office of Economic Development to do direct email outreach to 30 companies, and we held a virtual pre-bid conference. 13 companies downloaded the bid documents from our website. We received 1 bid by the August 4th deadline, and we held a public but virtual bid opening. As I mentioned during the EDIC board meeting, we're taking a hard look at our scoping requirements and outreach, and I hope to report back to you soon with more robust participation in future procurements, such as trash removal and snow removal. That being said, Northeastern Tree Service is the responsible and responsive bidder with the lowest total bid price, and we recommend award of this contract to them. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Aye. A second.
Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. Laura. All right, item number 10, request authorization to amend the contract with Tool Design LLC for the Plan East Boston Multimodal Transportation Study for further transportation, planning, and analysis services. Increase the contract amount by $49,500 and to extend the term of the contract for 6 months. Nick.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Nick Schmidt. I'm a senior transportation planner in the BPDA's Transportation and Infrastructure Planning Department. I'm here today to request authorization for the director to amend the contract with Tool Design Group LLC for the Plan East Boston Multimodal Transportation Study to include further transportation planning and analyses services in support of concept development, increase the contract amount by $49,500, and extend the term of the contract for 6 months through December 31st, 2021. On May 16th, 2019, the BPDA board authorized the director to enter into a contract with Tool Design Group LLC in an amount not to exceed $360,000 for the Plan East Boston Multimodal Transportation Study. The study is holistically analyzing East Boston's walking, biking, transit, and street networks and will make recommendations that respond to existing issues and support future growth. The study is advancing the Go Boston 2030 goals for expanding access, improving safety, and ensuring reliability. A key goal of the study is an actionable menu of immediate to longer-term multimodal projects that will form the basis of future development mitigation and public investments in the neighborhood. The overall East Boston process, which in addition to the transportation study includes a parallel and related land use, urban design, market analysis study, kicked off in the fall of 2018, and there have been more than 60 community engagements, including open house meetings and workshops since then. We are approximately 70% through the scope of the transportation work. Work to date includes community engagement support, identification of focus areas for analysis, and completion of a neighborhood-wide existing conditions analysis. Based on the results of the analysis and conversations with the community, the BPDA and Tool Design Group have identified preliminary recommendation concepts and are now analyzing and refining those concepts. The BPDA will be discussing, evaluating, and further refining these concepts with the community later this fall and winter. Concept development has been and continues to be a highly collaborative process with our colleagues in the Boston Transportation Department, Boston Public Works Department, Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, Massachusetts Department of Transportation, and the Massachusetts Port Authority, among other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Building on the community input we've received thus far and our analysis to date, the planning process is generating concepts that contemplate street network changes and new transit access. These visionary concepts require further analysis than anticipated during the initial procurement process. Specifically in the Day Square focus area, proposed changes to the street and transit network require further traffic modeling and transit service analysis in close coordination with our colleagues at the MBTA. As you can see, this is a highly complex location with more than 20 intersections in the heart of Day Square in this view alone. The existing contract, which does allocate $50,000 for the analysis of transportation recommendations for the entire neighborhood, is insufficient to address the complexity associated with the preliminary concepts. To close, the BPDA seeks to increase the contract scope with the Tool Design Group LLC to include further transportation planning and analysis services, increase the contract amount by $49,500, and extend the term of the contract by 6 months through December 31st, 2021. The $49,500 figure includes a 10% contingency. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
I do. Nick, thanks for the presentation. I've driven through the area. I know it fairly well. It is complex. So there's some things that we didn't see when it was initially put out for bid that requires more investment and more time. How can we be assured that we don't go another 50,000 into this in another couple of months, another 6 months? How comfortable are you that we can complete with the addition here?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, part of the initial study process was actually to identify our specific areas and the extent of those focus areas for analysis. So, for example, we know from Go Boston 2030 that Bennington Street is a priority project for the city throughout the entire length of East Boston, from Central Square up to the Revere line. We also knew going in that the Green Links project, basically providing a pathway from kind of along Chelsea Street in some fashion between Chelsea and the existing Mary Ellen Welch Greenway, was also a priority. So we had a good sense that Day Square would be a priority for the plan in some fashion. But during our initial analysis process and with our conversations with the community, we've basically found out that once you start tugging at one piece of Day Square, you kind of have to understand the rest of it. It's very highly interrelated. So that's sort of how we arrived at, knowing going in that we would be looking at this. But as we started developing our concepts further and analyzing further, we started realizing that it was the actual scope of the area that we need to look at was a little larger than anticipated. I'm very confident going in that this is sufficient to account for the area that we need to analyze. There's really this work is really an extension of the traffic and transit analysis that we have done anyway and would have continued to do in some fashion. And once these all sort of intersect in this area, and once you sort of, go out beyond this area, there's not really additional intersections that have the same sort of micro simulation analysis that you need to do for this area. It doesn't really have the same kind of impact. So we're pretty confident in our actual focus area here. We've coordinated the analysis scope itself with our colleagues at BTD and Public Works and also at MBTA. So we've been making sure with them and with our partners that it's adequate as well.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
I have a question, Nick. Can you talk into the future, looking ahead when this study is done? When will the people living on the ground in East Boston start feeling improvements in their traffic congestion and their continued pressure on parking and all the issues they are struggling with in that neighborhood? When will they feel some real improvements to their situation?
Sure, that's a great question. I would say that first of all, we've received a lot of input and we have a lot of understanding from our process to date. And, we use a lot of that as part of our development review process. So first and foremost, projects that are coming in, we're using what we're learning to help influence and improve the public realm relating to those projects. So those types of improvements can happen as part of developments as they come in. And as we all know, there's plenty of developments coming into East Boston. But that doesn't address everything, of course. There's a lot of big projects, big corridors and the squares, for example, that do require a lot more attention than a single development project could do, or a small project from the city, whether that's a BTD or Public Works project. So we're trying to closely coordinate our process with the upcoming East Boston Transportation Action Committee, which the mayor announced in January in the State of the City address. And so the role of the committee, we're thinking, will be really, really hands-on with helping us translate a lot of our big picture ideas and our focus areas into actionable items that can start to be implemented immediately with paint and flex posts and striping and signs and things like that, tweaks. That being said, there's also the need for pipeline projects, that go through the project development process where you're moving curbs and there's concrete and there's big changes. So we'll be having recommendations that cover all the way from those immediate kind of term things that we can work with the committee to the longer term things. And we think there's a lot of intersection actually there between big picture ideas that do require construction, but also can be done in some fashion on an immediate timeline to realize some of those benefits very early on. We've been really, as a city, been doing a lot of that lately with our public realm guidelines, where we create new plaza spaces out of kind of excess pavement, if you will, to adding better walking and biking facilities through our active transportation work, as well as our close coordination with the MBTA and bus lane project. So we're able to move quickly if we have ideas that are being supported by the community when we do get to that point where we'll be showing recommendations.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Me too. We're going to go ahead and squeeze in one more before we start the public hearing. So item number 11, request authorization to extend the final designation of EBCDC Incorporated, the nonprofit corporation affiliated with the East Boston Community Development Corporation, as the redeveloper of 146 through 172 Condor Street in East Boston, which includes authorization to execute a ground lease with EBCDC Incorporated and take all related actions. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for fitting me in. I do appreciate it. In October of 2016, the board awarded tentative designation status to the East Boston Community Development Corporation for the development of a 7-acre parcel of land at 146 Condor Street in East Boston. The intent is to develop a maritime industrial center consistent with the goals of an RFP that we issued a couple years ago, as well as port regulations and City of Boston zoning. As I've reported in previous board meetings, the development will take several years due to the complexities of the site itself and port-related regulations. Several development milestones have been established, the first of which is to have a fully executed lease. At the meeting held in July of 2020, the board graciously agreed to extend the deadline of the lease execution to September 30th of 2020. Although great strides have been made by BPDA and the Community Development Center team, business and legal teams, toward finalizing this complicated lease, we're not quite there, but we are very close. The final issue to be resolved for the lease is a realistic time frame for all the required improvements on the site. Last month, BPDA staff, myself included, met twice on site with East Boston CDC principals and consultants, BPDA leasing, waterfront planning, capital construction, and legal teams were also present on the site. The East Boston CDC consultants have submitted a revised timeline and schedule of the pre-construction deliverables for the parcel. BPDA engineering and permitting specialists have reviewed the timeline and feel that the revised timeline is both obtainable and realistic. The first task on the timeline is to raise the perimeter of the site, incorporating the entire circumference of the site by several inches to elevate the site out of the floodplain of the Chelsea Creek. After the perimeter, is elevated, there will still be a site about 6 acres, which would be about 10 feet below the floodplain at that point. To picture an acre in your mind's eye, a football field is roughly an acre. So it's a site the size of 6 football fields that would need to be filled up to 10 feet deep. The perimeter project has been permitted, and the expected completion of the perimeter project will be in the spring of 2021. However, we do not expect to get approval from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection and the Army Corps of Engineers to commence filling the site until mid to late 2022. The site literally abuts the Chelsea Creek, so there's a lot of regulatory bodies involved. Filling alone could take up to 3 years. So the forward progress will be incremental and deliberate, but it will take time, and we will need to be patient. However, all the costs associated with this are borne by the East Boston CDC, and BPDA will not be spending any funds on the project. The draft lease is in its final stage, and BPDA legal is very confident that we will have it completely executed by the end of the year, December 31st, 2020, which is what we're asking for the extension. Sorry, I know I dabbled a little bit there, but that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Do we have any questions from the board?
What are the anticipated effects of this landfilling project on both the creek and on other environmental consequences, really, in the immediate area?
That's part of the reason why it'll take so long, Mr. Landmark, Dr. Landmark. One of the big things that we need to entailed in the permitting is to make sure the fill does not go into Chelsea Creek. So there'll be sloping of the site to make sure that none of the fill leaves the site and goes into the creek. That's the major concern. The fill itself will have to be tested and make sure that it's clean. Which is also a process I'm not an expert on, but I know it's timely. And one dump truck at a time, it's going to take quite a while to fill the site. But all precautions will be taken to make sure that the fill that comes in is clean and absolutely that the shoreline is stable.
And where do we think this fill is going to be coming from?
I'm not 100% positive. I presume from construction projects that are going on, but I'm not 100% positive where the fill will come from. I can inquire and get back to you on that.
That would be fine. Thank you.
I'll be glad to do that.
To follow up on Ted's question, would this project be really set back by a flood? or a sea level event, a sea level rise event? And how are they going to protect against that?
Well, I think that the main protection is to elevate it, as part of resiliency projects, is to elevate the site out of the current floodplain, which was amended recently. I'm not an expert in the floodplains either, but I know that as it stands right now, it's technically in the floodplain. After raising the perimeter of the site by several inches, it will be officially out of the floodplain according to regulators and our colleagues in the planning department and engineering. I wish I had a more technical answer for you, but I don't.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
We are actually going to take just one more item before we start the public hearing. So number 12, request authorization to extend the tentative designation of Tenants Development Corporation as redeveloper of the development of a community center, including office space for its headquarters on parcel 22A in the South End Urban Renewal Area, project number Mass R-56, located at 151 Lenox Street in Roxbury. Ray.
Thank you. Can you see me and hear me? Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, and members of the board. I'm requesting an additional 90-day extension to the tentative designation for Tenants Development Corporation of Roxbury for the location you mentioned at 151 Lenox Street in the South End Urban Renewal Area. The board originally voted to award TDC tentative designation in June 2018, extending that TD in March, June, September, and December of 2019, and March and June of 2020. TDC is proposing to develop a approximately 18,000 square foot, 4-story community center. Recently the progress has been the progress of the capital campaign has been hampered because of COVID-19 restrictions. However, very recently they just added a $250,000 commitment, which it was in cash deposited into their account, adding to their fundraising goal, which is a really great thing. We're very happy to hear about that. So TDC expects to use this requested extension to continue adjusting their design and a really huge push on their capital campaign. They'll be submitting foundation grant applications, doing some virtual events with a targeted philanthropic community, and they'll also engage in media outreach and cultivation of events. So for these reasons, I request that you please grant an extension to the tentative designation so that they can keep moving forward. I'm happy to answer any questions. And unfortunately, their consultant, their capital campaign consultant, Sean Curran, couldn't stay for the remainder of the meeting because of previous obligations, but he really, will be here next month, or next time. So thank you very much. And I appreciate you getting me in under the wire.
No worries, no worries. Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
This is a very important project for this community. It's taking a while, and obviously COVID has made it more difficult to do fundraising. And I wonder why we're only extending for 90 days when it would seem as though a 6-month extension might be more appropriate.
That's definitely very true. We've been trying to work very closely with Tenants Development Corporation, so we had felt that doing it in 3-month increments sort of helped us to kind of stay on top of what was happening. But we could definitely talk about that for the next time, and consider doing it for longer. I don't know if we can alter the vote today, of course, but I think we should consider that for next time, particularly if some of these online events, yield some additional commitments, and then we'll feel pretty comfortable that they're, moving ahead really well.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Does anybody, any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, so we are now going to start the public hearing. So let me just shuffle my papers. Okay. This is a public hearing before the Boston Redevelopment Authority, doing business as the Boston Planning and Development Agency, being held in conformance with Article 80 of the Boston Zoning Code to consider the notice of project change for 5 and 15 Necco Street, located in the Fort Point district of the South Boston waterfront neighborhood as a development impact project, and to consider the proposed Fifth Amendment to the master plan and the proposed amended and restated development plan for 5 and 15 Necco Street with plan development area number 69, South Boston, the 100 acres. This hearing was duly advertised on August 27, 2020 in the Boston Herald. This is a BPDA hearing on a proposed petition by the agency. Staff members will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the agency. Thereafter, anyone who wishes to testify about the proposed project will be afforded an opportunity. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. If you are planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Click the hand icon on your Zoom control panel. This will signal staff that you would like to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you are calling into the meeting and you would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When I call for testimony, for all testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to talk. You must unmute your microphone. Your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. BPDA staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. At the conclusion of all oral testimony, any email testimony will be read out loud. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. So Ms. Kerr will now begin our presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, members of the board. It's been some time since I was last before you all, but I do hope you and your families are doing well and have had an enjoyable summer despite the circumstances. I'm pleased to be before you this evening with BPDA staff's recommendation for approval of the notice of project change for the 5 and 15 Necco Street project, and to request authorization to recommend approval to the Boston Zoning Commission of the associated proposed Fifth Amendment to the master plan for plan development area number 69, South Boston, the 100 acres, and the proposed amended and restated development plan for 5 and 15 Necco Street. As approved by this board in November of 2016, the 5 and 15 Necco Street sites were previously contemplated as the General Electric Global Headquarters campus, a project which included 2 components: the rehabilitation of the historic former Boston Wharf Company buildings at 5 and 6 Necco Court, and the construction of a new GE headquarters office building at 15 Necco Street. In May of 2019, affiliates of National Development and Alexandria Real Estate Equities collectively purchased the project site. The rehabilitation of the former Boston Wharf Company buildings is complete, and GE has commenced tenancy of what is now a single building known as 5 Necco Street. The board will hear this evening from representatives of National Development and Elkus Manfredi Architects, who will provide further details on the proposed 15 Necco Street building. The key differences between the original 15 Necco building as permitted by GE and the proposal before you this evening include an additional 18,760 square feet of office, life sciences, and/or research and development space, the elimination of 30 parking spaces, substantial improvements to the public realm, and a significant commitment to public spaces. The proposal before the board this evening will allow for a more welcoming, inclusive, and active development along the 4-Point Channel. With future development on neighboring parcels and additional sites further up the channel towards Broadway Station, the 15 Necco Street project will very much pave the way for this new section of Fort Point and the South Boston waterfront. Beginning with the proponent's submission of the notice of project change on November 5th, 2019, BPDA staff has appreciated the opportunity for extensive engagement over the last 10 months with the Impact Advisory Group and the Fort Point and wider South Boston communities. After an initial round of IAG and public review, the proponent submitted a supplemental submission to the BPDA on February 11th, 2020, which detailed revised design plans for the 15 Necklace Street building and proposed ground floor community, civic, cultural, and nonprofit uses. Through a robust Boston Civic Design Commission review process, the 15 Necklace Street building has evolved to what you will see in this evening's presentation. The project serves as an excellent example of the iterative process of Article 80 review. The unique public spaces and places that this project will bring to the Fort Point Channel are the direct result of thoughtful collaboration and meaningful engagement between the BPDA, City of Boston staff, the Impact Advisory Group, the community, and the development team. The revised proposal for the 5 and 15 Necklace Street sites will provide approximately 4,700 square feet of flexible ground floor civic, cultural, and nonprofit space in the historic 5 Necco building. The Fort Point Arts community, who you'll hear a little bit more about in the presentation, has some very exciting plans for this space. A community work lounge on the ground floor of the new 15 Necco building will be finalized through the state's Chapter 91 licensing process, but will provide space for individuals to set up with their laptop for the day, conduct a small meeting, or for community organizations to host evening programs or events. The proponent will be completing their portion of work on the future Fort Point Park, which is currently being planned by the community through the BPDA's 100 acres open space planning process, and which will provide a world-class open space in complement to the activity along the channel. Sidewalk and infrastructure improvements undertaken by the proponent will provide accessible connections to the Fort Point Channel, which previously did not exist, supporting the city's goals of promoting access to the waterfront and the Harbor Walk network. In closing, I would like to thank the members of the Impact Advisory Group who dedicated a significant amount of time and effort to reviewing this proposal and advocating for the exceptional public spaces and uses that will make this project a vibrant and welcoming destination in the city. We look forward to continued engagement and discussion with the IAG members as the previously mentioned civic, cultural, nonprofit, and community spaces are further developed through the Chapter 91 process. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues Rich McGinnis and Joe Christo from the BPDA's waterfront planning team, who probably spent just as much time as I did on this project, and whose guidance and support throughout contributed significantly to the proposal before you this evening. With that, I will hand it over to David Manfredi from Elkus Manfredi Architects, representing National Development and Alexandria Real Estate. BPDA staff and the development team will be happy to answer any questions the board may have at the conclusion of the presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Aisling. This is David Manfredi, Chairwoman Rojas, members of the board, Secretary Volhemus, Director Golden. Pleasure to be here this afternoon, even if remotely. I don't know who is advancing. Aisling, is that you, or do I have the ability?
We have other staff, David, so you can just let us know, and other staff members will advance through as necessary.
Fantastic, thank you. The first slide is really a summary of everything that Aisling Kerr just mentioned, including the work component of both 5 and 15 NECO, the connect component, which are the nonprofit spaces, the community spaces that you will hear a little bit more about in a moment, and the sustained component being the LEED gold rating. But I'll also talk about very specifically the on-site renewables, which include photovoltaics in excess of what was originally proposed by GE, and a field of geothermal wells, and we will hear in detail about our adaptable resiliency. Next, please. So there are 2 buildings, 5 NECO, which is the historic building, a 5-story brick masonry building, and 15 NECO, which is the new building, 12 stories. And you can see in the outline the site and exactly how much open space is actually included in this proposal. The footprint of 15 NECO is approximately 100 feet from its westernmost boundary to the seawall. You can see that in addition, or maybe you can't see, but in addition, the design changes from the original proposal represent actually an increase of open space, approximately 7,400 square feet over the previous proposal. You can see that we abut the new 100-acre park. You'll see that in our renderings. That park is currently being designed by Halverson Partnership, but we have made every accommodation in terms of topography and our own planning that we will engage seamlessly with that future park. Next, please. 15 NECO is a singular building with a distinct base, a tower, and a top. The 4-story base is red brick masonry visually connected to the historic context of Fort Point Channel. As you can see, the adjoining buildings between our site and the Summer Street Bridge. The tower is an 8-story metal and glass tower, and you can see the geometry of the tower kind of leaning into the channel in the architecture and the massing of waterfront, historic waterfront structures. In the top is photovoltaic cladding of penthouse exceeding the amount of photovoltaics that were originally proposed. There's over 16,000 square feet of new photovoltaics. Next, please. From the Summer Street Bridge, you can see the masonry base fits into the Boston Wharf Company buildings that stretch between our site and the Summer Street Bridge. Our building as proposed, you can see the seam between that base and that tower, the geometry of that tower reminiscent of those structures that line the harbor's edge in the tradition of those shipping structures. Next, please. The Harbor Walk improvements that you see in this rendering, from the Harbor Walk to the seawall and including the floating components, are already constructed. The renovation of 5 Necco, the building on the left, is now complete, and GE is occupying the building. The previously proposed bridge and canopy that connected the two buildings has been eliminated, we believe making the open space between the buildings less proprietary, more inviting to the public from the Harbor Walk to Necco Street, to A Street, and eventually beyond when the 100-acre park is completed. Next, please. This is a view from Necco. You are looking west, and you can see beyond the South Boston Postal Facility. You're looking between 5 Necco on the right and 15 Necco on the left. The majority of our street level is dedicated now to facilities of public accommodation. There's an entrance on the north off of this walkway between 5 and 15. It connects to a through lobby that then connects to the park on the south. All 4 corners of the building will be occupied by facilities of public accommodation. There are no backsides to this building. In fact, we have active public realm on all 4 sides. Next, please. This is a view on the south. So immediately to the left will be the new park. We're just showing green, awaiting that new park. The building first floor elevation is elevated to 20.5 in the interest of resiliency. And so you can see the land is contoured to reach that entrance on the south side. That north side entrance and south side entrances connect. And this is a publicly accessible passageway which is dedicated to community uses, as you will see in a moment. And that park is currently being designed, but as I said, everything we have done with our landscape architects, OJB, has been planned to coordinate with the topography of the park that is to come. With that, let me introduce Naomi Mayu from National Development.
Thank you, David. And on behalf of my colleagues at National Development, and thank you, Madam Chairwoman, Madam Secretary, Director Golden, and members of the board for this opportunity. So if you go to the next slide, please, start just talking a little bit about resiliency. The city of Boston has been a leader in this country on climate change preparedness, particularly with its thoughtful climate action plan, provides guidelines for resiliency measures for the future of Boston, with a special consideration for measures that protect our historic neighborhoods. With the opportunity of improving on the previously approved GE project, which was back in, and in meeting the guidelines, the current guidelines of the Climate Action Plan, we added extensive and adaptable protection measures around the site, as you can see denoted in yellow, the yellow line slide. And we have the opportunity as well to integrate them and these measures with the BPDA staff and their efforts with FEMA and other property owners along. The intent, obviously, for a resilient future for our buildings, as well as those immediately behind us, directly behind us from the waterfront. We have provided a continuous line of defense here that will tie directly into the future park to the south and the city's efforts there. Next slide. As David alluded to earlier, as did Ashlyn, we are happy to have committed space in the historic 5 Necco building on the ground floor, right on the corner of Necco Street, which will be in perpetuity to a nonprofit and community. Our first partnership is the Fort Point Arts Community for a nominal sum of $10 a year. That's not $10 a square foot, that's $10 in total. So not only is this a qualified partner, qualified nonprofit, they encourage activation and other partnerships with other nonprofits. They're focused on public engagement with a diverse population, diverse programming, and they most importantly, what we're most excited about, they'll help us be able to celebrate the artistic fabric of the city. Also, as both Ashlyn and David alluded to, we are happy to have what we call a touchdown space in the new 15 Necco building. We intentionally designed an indoor sort of outdoor feeling public realm, so it should feel like an extension of the Harbor Walk as you're coming to this area. The goal was to be very public and civic oriented. Previously GE had some serious kind of security considerations, and we really feel like that was sort of the thesis of where we were going with our new. We've provided what we're calling this touchdown space on the ground floor, so that even if it's someone that's not a patron of a restaurant or a retailer or an employee in the building, that they feel welcome to come in to this area, sit down, stay, eat lunch, hang out, do work, plug in. This will support all of the waterfront activity along the Harbor Walk and the new park to the south, which we are excited where you are as well. Attention it will draw. We don't have the security considerations, as I said, so most of the outdoor space is just as civic with more public spaces. And again, we want that to feel indoor-outdoor as if it's spilling out into the exterior. We want to focus as well on having the building, and particularly the ground floor, offer a destination for a broad group of visitors, as I said, not necessarily an employee or patron, with a diversity of retailers, of price point, of uses, and of the audience, the intended audience. Next slide. This work lounge was the result of our public process, and even sort of prior to our formal public process, which we've been, active listeners and really in collaboration with the community. We heard the community had a strong desire to have more space for working and meetings, and even just informally to come in with a laptop, plug in, connect, have a small meeting themselves. And so we have developed this public work lounge, so it will be flexible workspace with those plugins, free public Wi-Fi, and some sort of coffee use and public grab-and-go food. These two spaces, this work lounge and the touchdown space, will feel as if they're one sort of space flowing together. There'll be some flexible furniture, so that if there's an event, someone can call, reserve it, and we can move the furniture out of the way, but really flexible, again, with the intention of attracting a diverse group or individual that may want to come and use the space in different ways. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary, the previously approved GE project had provided extensive mitigations, of course, but we were very happy for this opportunity to even further enhance this project and the surrounding area, both inside and outside. These comprehensive improvements include more civic and community-focused spaces, more thoughtful, active ground floor uses and amenities, more open space, better resiliency measures, a more sustainable building, as David said, LEED Gold, a lot of new technology in the building envelope, a lot of on-site renewable focus, including geothermal, which I think is new to this specific neighborhood, as well as solar panels, which again, we're able to get more than the previously project. And particularly the opportunity to integrate better with the neighborhood, provide more pathways to and from the water, around the site, much more porous and feeling as if it's civic, not a corporate campus. And so we certainly want it to feel everyone to feel welcome and not like they're trespassing. And particularly, you know, this has been a really wonderful process with the community. And I think where we ended up is a really positive thing for this area, the neighborhood, people that may not have normal or regular access to the waterfront from other neighborhoods, and an opportunity to celebrate the artistic legacy. So we are excited to be a part of the implementation of the 100-acre park process to our south here, and look forward to seeing the rest of the plan come to life. It's been a pleasure to work with Rich McGinnis and Joe Christo, BPDA staff, as well as Ashlyn, to continue this, and we look to continue this as they develop their design as well. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman, Madam Secretary, and members of the board for your time. The members of the public who so thoughtfully worked with us on improving this project along the way. BPDA staff and our local elected officials, I think we're all really happy and really feeling like this is a great.
Okay, thank you. So does that conclude the presentation? Okay, great. So we're going to hold off on board questions and go through the public testimony portion. So yes, we're now entering the public testimony portion. So please announce your name, affiliation, and your position for the proposed project. Teresa will.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Joe Rogers has his hand up. I've unmuted him, or I've given him the ability to unmute himself.
My apologies all. The hand up was inadvertent. I appreciate the attention, but I don't have any comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Now we know it works. The hand up. Do we have anyone else with their hands up?
Yes. Gary Walker. Go ahead, Gary. Oh, did we lose him? Gary? Gary, can you unmute yourself? Okay. I'm going to move on to Minor Perez.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is Minor Perez representing the Carpet Presidium. First of all, I wish from the bottom of my heart that you and all your family are doing well in these difficult times. And I would say that I truly appreciate your hard work on what you do, moving this city forward with these projects. I know this is very difficult times where you'd rather be with your families. With respect to the project, I stand before you in support of the project for many reasons. Obviously, construction jobs, being a union carpenter, but very importantly, Madam Chair and members of the board, through the past few months, we are living through very unique times where many hundreds of people throughout the city of Boston and other cities had to make a choice in between paying rents, paying mortgages, and paying medicines, where we know that the prediction is that many people may be evicted out of their homes. And I think the community benefits that this project is going to bring to the city are of great convenience and would be greatly needed. And hopefully, with great respect, I ask for your support for this project to be approved. Again, I wish you all well, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Minor. Thank you.
I am trying to help Gary again. Gary, it says that you have an older version of Zoom, so I'm going to promote you to a panelist to allow you to talk. Are you there, Gary? No.
Oh, I thought we heard him.
I did too. I don't think he has the ability.
Yeah, it looks like there's like a video thing.
Video, no
Not the microphone.
So Gary, if you want to call 617-918-4236, they can patch you through so that you can testify. I'll give you a minute to do that. There are no other hands raised.
Okay. So again, for those who are attending, now is the time to raise a vote. We've got one hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Greeley.
Yeah, this is Thomas Greeley. I'm a resident of the neighborhood. I just wanted to voice my quick support of the development. I think they've done a lot of what the neighborhood has asked for. And as somebody who walks quite regularly up and down the Harbor Walk there in A Street, I think it's going to be a great addition and improvement to the neighborhood. So thanks very much. And that's it. Just want to voice my enthusiastic support.
Thank you, Thomas, for coming to participate. Appreciate that. Okay, great. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, you just have to raise your hand using the hand button. So we'll give that a couple seconds again. Anyone? Okay. So why don't we move on to board questioning, Teresa?
Yes. Okay. And if there's, I'll let you know if I see any more hands.
Yeah, if there are any more hands, we can, and if there are technical difficulties, we will again try and resolve those in this time. But what we're now opening up to the board. Do you have any questions regarding this project?
I have one. First, I want to commend the development team for your addressing issues of resilience. It appears that you're doing that well, even as you await the final design from Halverson. I have one question which will seem a little nitpicky. Given the program that you've set for the ground floor spaces and your intention of making this a very public and open space, have you included enough restrooms? It doesn't appear to me that you have.
Yes, I didn't. David, I don't know if you want to answer this either, but in the ground floor, right sort of central to the lobby, we do have some public restrooms there, as well as all of our retailers on the ground floor will also have restrooms available. And what our other plan as well is to provide wayfinding signage from Necco Street and then also from the Harbor Walk, directing people where the public restrooms.
Thank you.
I have a question. Reading through the comment letters, it seems like the original design of this building was not met with enthusiasm from the Fort Point community. Can you talk about how you changed the design and why this final design that's before us is appropriate for this kind of gateway spot and in among these older brick industrial buildings? And where is the sentiment in the community now for this final design?
Naomi, I'll go first and you can join in. The original design that was presented to the community and presented to BCDC was a building that was primarily glass and metal. It had a great deal of sun shading devices for sun control and heat gain control, but it did not participate in the historic context of Fort Point Channel in terms of its material palette. I think there was generally support for the overall massing of the building, but you are absolutely correct. The response from the community was that we are close enough into the Boston Wharf buildings that we needed to make a better connection. And that was in material palette, it was in proportions, it was in coloration. And so you can see how the building has evolved. There is a 4-story base that is red brick masonry that has vertically oriented proportions of what we call punched windows. There's a kind of 2-story seam, and then there's a metal and glass tower above. I think we all came to understand this building. When I say all, I mean the design team, the development team, the neighborhood, as something of a transition between the historic Boston Wharf buildings and the future that clearly is going to evolve just south of us along A Street to Gillette and eventually beyond.
And if I could add one thing to answer your question, Carol, about how the neighborhood feels about these changes. So we actually were very lucky. We had a lot of members of the public participate in our BCDC meetings originally, as well as our subcommittee meetings. And then we're able to present the final BCDC approved design on September 2nd to the neighborhood as well. And so it was very well received. And, you know, I truthfully think that both us as a development team and design team and the neighborhood are very happy with how the building.
Great, thank you. I have one other general question. It seemed like there were so many people engaged in this community process pre-COVID. What happened at the September meeting? Were there as many people engaged in the final community process? Maybe Ashley can answer that.
Sure, happy to. Thank you, Mrs. Downs. I think across the board, we've seen variances, right, in processes that were underway pre-COVID and how that's translated to a virtual process. I think by and large, we're seeing an uptick in participation numbers. I think it's just easier for people to virtually participate. It's, you know, it's more flexible. You can do it while you're cooking dinner. You don't have to run out to get to a meeting. But I think if anything, the September 2nd meeting was probably more lightly attended than previous public meetings we had held in person pre-COVID. We did host a virtual IAG meeting in the middle of July, end of July, and that was very well attended. There was actually better attendance at that than the public meeting. And again, as Naomi said, a lot of the neighbors here and a lot of the community members were active and participatory in the BCDC process. So I think people were involved in that and obviously got a good sense of what the changes had been. But of course, it was good for us to go back out and have that September 2nd meeting as well. So I think there was still good activity and good involvement, just in a different way.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions from the board? Okay, I have, it's not really a question, more of a, I guess more of a comment and encouragement, maybe? I don't know, we'll see. So I do, you know, what came across more than any probably other presentation that I've seen is how intentional you were about the use of the ground floor space and having, you know, not wanting it to feel like an office park, right? Which, you know, and so I would like you just to congratulate you on all of that intention and collaboration that you did with the communities to, you know, to become a part of the community. And I'm, you know, very, I'm excited about that. I'm hopeful. I do think that it will probably, you know, still be challenging, right? Because this is, again, a new thing for that area, or like the seaport, or different things that maybe, like, you know, don't appear as welcoming, right? Or that this is open community space, right? Like, so again, very excited to see, you know, to see how that turns out. And I think, you know, again, good on you and and the teams to be collaborating to make that happen, and really maintain that kind of community feel within the Fort Point. And I think, I mean, I'm hopeful. I think it can happen. I think you could do it. But I also do think it's going to be challenging because it's going to be new, right? To be able to create that awareness and activation. But it sounds like you're on your way, and the wayfinding and all of that good stuff, in that awesome green space that is going to be so cool. So yeah, it's just all I wanted to say. Anyway, does anybody else from the board have a question or comment? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Oh wait, did anybody else raise their hand virtually, Teresa?
No, there's no hands raised.
Cool. All right, well, okay. So hearing and seeing no additional comments, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so give me a moment to shuffle my papers. Okay, so we're back to item number 13, correct, Teresa?
That is correct.
Okay, great. So this is a certificate of completion portion of the agenda. So item number 13, request authorization to issue a partial certificate of completion to Boston Landing LLC for the 40 Guest Street project in Brighton. The second project of 3 total projects that consist in the office building sports project development plan with Boston Landing Plan Development Area number 87. This is certificate of completion, so there's no presentation. Motion is in order.
Oh, sorry, so moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, let's take a roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 14, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion pursuant to the cooperation agreement to 3200 Washington Street LLC for the 3200 Washington Street project in Jamaica Plain. There's no presentation. Any questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Item number 15, request authorization to execute an affordable housing agreement for 1 on-site inclusionary development unit and a contribution to the IDP fund for the 69 Cummins Highway project. Ms. Torres.
Good evening, Chairperson Rojas, Director Golden, Secretary Polamis, and members of the board. My name is Lizzie Torres, and I want to welcome you this evening and thank you so much for allowing me the time to present and come before you today with 69 Cummins Highway in Roslindale. We have a 12-unit homeownership project. It received its Zoning Board of Appeal approval on July 30th, 2019, and does not require Article 80 approval. It will, however, be income restricting 1 homeownership unit under the inclusionary development policy, along with a contribution to the IDP fund. Your vote today is to execute an affordable housing agreement and restriction. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Lizzie. Item number 16, request authorization to issue certification of approval pursuant to Article 80E small project review of the zoning code for the construction of 42 condominium units, including 6 IDP units and 51 parking spaces and 52 bicycle storage spaces located at 11 Faneuil Street, and to take all related actions. Michael.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary and Director Golden. Michael Sinatra, Project Manager with BPDA Development Review. The project before you is 11 Faneuil Street in Brighton. The current site is a 19,530 square foot parcel consisting of two former businesses, Meineke and Bagman. The proposed project falls under Article 80 Small Project Review and will be made up of approximately 41,525 square feet. It will be 4 stories and 54 feet in height. The proposal is to create 42 homeownership units, 6 of which will be IDP. The unit mix will be studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. The project will also include 51 parking spaces, 47 of which will be automated, with the rest being visitor or handicap, as well as 52 bike parking spots with access both through the lobby and direct access to the street. And the total development cost will be $13.5 million. At this time, I will turn it over to the development team to go over their presentation in more detail, after which we would be happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Golden, Secretary Polimis. This is Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano. We're the zoning attorneys for City Realty, who are the owner and developer of the project at 11 Faneuil. I also have Dan Artigis with me from Embark, who's the architect on the project, who you'll hear from in a few moments. Just for point of reference, the rendering in front of you is the newest proposal that we've worked on with the BPDA and the community. The proposal, next slide, please. So the proposal, as mentioned, would create 42 new housing units with 51 parking spaces at the ground level. As was mentioned, this is an existing commercial structure. It had been empty for a number of years, and we felt this use, creating housing, would be much more conducive to the area, where there are some new developments in and around us. Jobs, as was mentioned, it's a $13.5 million investment project, creation of 70 construction jobs on the site. I will get into affordability in a moment, but there are a number of community benefits, including, in the slide, dedicated bike room with 52 bicycle spaces, $48,000 contribution to the Boston Transportation Department for updates in transportation, and then a public transportation information station that would show schedules, because we are, for those folks that would be moving here, we are near blue bike stations, bus routes, and of course the Boston Landing site. Next slide, please. So again, just the proposal is to raise the existing commercial structure and erect a residential building. This is a condominium building with 42 units and 51 parking spaces. Just as we worked with the community on this project, as well as the BPDA and Councilor Braden, we agreed to add an additional affordable unit. So what was required was 5 units, and we are at 6. We also agreed, because we know home ownership is so important, to have 60% deed restricted home ownership units on this site, which would be put in our master deed and trust in the condominium units. Again, on our AMIs, we agreed in speaking with the BPDA and Councilor Braden in the mayor's office to 1 of the units being at 60%, 3 at 80%, and 2 at 100% AMI, along with the rest of our mitigation that was committed to. The area is zoned as neighborhood shopping, although there is residential all around it. The lot size is at 19,530 square feet, and our gross square footage of the building is 41,525 square feet. Next slide, please. This is just the plot plan that just shows the survey of the buildings. You can see it borders both Faneuil Street as well as Market Street. Next slide. And this is just an aerial view, so you can see there's commercial behind us, there's residential across the street to the left, commercial to the right, and our site, which was empty and kind of a blighted site for a while. This proposal would really clean that up and bring some revitalization to this area. Next slide. And again, these are just some existing pictures and existing conditions, as you can see straight along on the Faneuil side. Next slide, please. And again, these are just some existing pictures and existing conditions, as you can see straight along on the Faneuil side. Next slide, please. Next slide. And again, these are just some existing pictures and existing conditions, as you can see straight along on the Faneuil side. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And again, this is the view of the proposed building. And just a quick note of a breakdown for the units. So we are proposing 14 studio units with an average size of 560, 14 one-bedroom units at 700 with an average size of 705 square feet, 6 one-bedroom plush units at 860, 5 two-bedroom units at 935, and we were also asked to include some family-size units. So we do have 3 3-bedrooms at 1245. We did have a very robust community process and made a number of changes as we went forward. So as you see, this building steps in, and I'm going to let Dan get into that, but just some of the modifications that we went through with the community, reducing the height in stories from 5 stories to 4 stories, a complete majority brick in the front for our exterior treatments. Our unit count went from 54 down to 42. Our gross square footage reduced from 62,445 to 41,525. And our FAR went from 3.2 to 2.13 as we worked through this process. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dan Artigis from Embark.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Dan Artigis. I'm with Embark Architecture and Design. As Jeff had mentioned, this project has gone through a lengthy community process, and in working with the community, the design of the building has progressed to what you see here tonight. Looking at the area of this area of Alston, Brighton, we look to create a strong 3-story cornice line with a predominantly brick facade, broken up by a series of bays with large fenestration. And then at the upper floor, on the 4th floor, working with our direct abutters, we created a 14-foot step back from Faneuil Street to minimize the massing along Faneuil Street, but aggregate the mass along Market Street to tie into the heights of the buildings along Market Street. As Jeff had mentioned, we look to create an activated facade on the ground floor. So starting from the right-hand side, we have the bike room with 52 bike parking spaces with both access from the street and within the building lobby. Moving down the facade in the center under the 11 is the main building entry. To the right of that would be a seating and amenity space for the building occupants. And then next to the left of the 11 is the parking entry to the building. Something to mention here is that the previous use was a commercial use for the site, and there were 2 roughly 20-foot curb cuts. So in working on this building, we were able to remove one of those curb cuts and reduce the other to a single 10-foot curb cut. So there will be more pedestrian sidewalk space. And if we go to the next slide, this is just a view from Market Street, identifying that strong 3-story cornice line, and then the series of bays, and then the step back 4th story here. And if you go to the next slide, this is the ground floor level, and on the front, at the bottom of the sheet is Faneuil Street, and we've set the building back 6 feet, so we have almost a 12-foot wide sidewalk in front of our building, and reducing the curb cuts to a single 10-foot curb cut, improving the public realm along this end of Faneuil Street, accessing Market Street. Another thing, to the rear left-hand side of the site, this is an L-shaped site, so we've created a 16-foot step back to the building, creating open space where there is currently none. The entire lot is either paved or a one-story commercial building. And then we also have a overhang covered patio in that rear area as an amenity to building occupants. Running through the ground floor plan, the main building entry is, like I said, off of Faneuil Street, small seating area, and then the bike parking room for 52 bikes. And then from the parking area down the driveway, there's a parking area through semi-automated parking system for 51 parking spaces for the building. And then as well, a trash room fully inside the building. Next slide, please. This is just the front elevation showing that that strong cornice line and then the breakup of the bays and the building entry. Next slide. This is the Market Street elevation, everything stepping up to 4 stories, continuing that cornice line around. Next slide. The rear elevation, again, carrying that strong cornice line. And then the last slide. This is showing the open space and the covered patio area amenity space for the units. And that concludes, I think there may be one more slide. Yep. Jeff, I'll turn it back over to you.
We can just answer any question. That concludes our presentation, Madam Chair. We can answer any question the board may have.
Great. Well, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none. A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Okay, item number 17. Request authorization to issue a certification of approval pursuant to Article 80E, Small Project Review of the Zoning Code for the construction of 25 income-restricted rental units containing retail space and bicycle storage located at 40 through 50 Warren Street to recommend approval to the Board of Appeal for zoning relief necessary, subject to BPDA design review, and to take all related actions. Ebony.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Secretary, and Director Golden. The proposed development before you is 40 to 50 Warren Street in Roxbury, which is the result of a comprehensive planning study for the Nubian Square neighborhood. New Urban Collaborative proposes to construct a 6-story, approximately 36,770 square foot income restricted housing development. The project will contain 25 income restricted rental units, ground floor retail space, co-working space, 25 bicycle parking spaces for residents, and 5 bicycle parking spaces for the commercial uses. The small project review application was submitted on September 27th of 2019. One public meeting was held on December 10th of 2019, and the second public meeting was held on September 3rd of 2020. The comment period closed on December 18th, 2019. At this time, I will turn it over to the development team to go over their presentation in more detail, after which we would be happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Ebony.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Link. I'm a principal at Zephyr Architects and the architect of 4050 Warren Street. The development team is the New Urban Collaborative, and Jeffrey Dubard is with us tonight as the principal in charge of that project. So as Ebony said, 40 to 50 Warren Street is a building that contains 25 affordable housing units. It's a 25-unit building, so that's 100% affordability. We're estimating 30 retail jobs will be created by the commercial space on the first 3 levels, and we have space for 30 bicycle storage, 30 bicycles in the bicycle storage unit. The building will be LEED Gold certified and will include some public community space and a rooftop garden accessible to the residents of the building. Next slide, please. Here we have a site. Oh, sorry. If you could go back one slide. Thank you. Here we have a site plan that shows the Nubian Square neighborhood map. We have Dudley Street on the southern edge of our map and Warren Street directly in the center. Our building is the light green building with the blue piece in the center, roughly in the middle, and directly across from the Nubian Square bus terminal area. The blue area that is shown on the map is the entrance to the residential lobby of the building from Warren Street, which we'll talk more about later. Next slide, please. This is a street level map of an aerial view from behind the building on Dudley Street facing toward the Bowling Building and the Nubian Square bus station. This highlights the 4 noteworthy transit hubs in the area. There are 2 bus stations, the Nubian Square bus station and the Melnia Cass bus stop, as well as about a 10-minute walk to the Ruggles Orange Line and a few minutes more to the Roxbury Crossing Orange Line stop. Next slide, please. So our building is a 6-story building with a commercial base, commercial space at the front of the 2nd and 3rd floor, and residential units occupying all of the top 3 floors and part of the back of floors 2 and floor 3. The building is 70 feet tall. We are amplifying a kind of 3rd floor cornice that relates to the Palladio building next door, which we'll see in a moment in the elevation. And our retail space at the base also includes a prominent entry for the co-working and office spaces on the 2nd and 3rd floor. Next slide, please. These are views of the existing conditions in the area. The top picture, the largest one, is looking from the Nubian Square bus station toward the site, which is an existing parking lot of about 27 spaces next to the Palladio building. Lower left is a view from Dudley Street down Warren Street with our site on the right behind Palladio. And then the remaining 3 images are some contextual shots from the area within a 1-block radius. Next slide, please. This project is the outgrowth, as Ebony mentioned, of a comprehensive and extensive process, including Plan Nubian and several RFPs that the city issued prior to this and including this. There has been quite a few community groups that have met regarding this space, including the PRC, and a number of meetings privately held throughout the area. Next slide, please. The proposed site plan changes what was formerly a 27-space parking lot behind the Palladio building into a fairly activated public realm that includes a residential entry indicated in the blue in the drawing, and the rest of the space, which you see in green, is commercial space, all of which, except for the co-working lobby in the northwestern corner of the building, is completely accessible to the public during operational hours. The co-working lobby is an entrance up to the 2nd and 3rd floor, which will have some limited access, but will still be usable by the public on either a membership or some sort of restricted basis like that. South of the building, between our building and the Palladio building, we're proposing an art walk, which you can see some precedent images for to the right of this slide. As our building is set back 18 feet at the street and down to 10 feet at the back of the art alley from the Palladio building. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
The computer's frozen. Just give us a minute. Oh, there you go.
There we go. So here we see a view of the building from Nubian.
Just does not like that slide. Bummer. Sorry, Joyce, hang in there. Well, while we're here, I really like this art walk. Do you intend to use like local artists, or like how do you, we're gonna kind of mix it up a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm doing a little bit of question and, a little before the formal questioning part. But yeah, like what's your plans for that? What inspired?
So there will be some permanent pieces in the art walk, which you can see there's some catenary lighting that's planned. That space relates directly to the commercial space adjacent to it. So we're imagining that that's a cafe or some sort of food and beverage supplier that can utilize the space. And the New Urban Collaborative will maintain management control of the building. So the programming of the art space would be intended to be focused on local art, local artists from the Nubian Square community and from, I think, probably Greater Roxbury as well. And I think if we can see the slide previous to this in the same master view that you just showed, I think that would be adequate to discuss what's on it.
Oh no, we might be missing our luck.
That's okay. Yeah, don't push it. I can discuss the same points with this. The previous slide was an elevation of the building, and there we go. Don't touch anything. So in the lower left, there's an elevation of the building, which you can see there's a direct and strong relationship with the Palladio building to the right, and you can see the gap between the buildings where that art walk is. The art walk will also be programmed and controlled partially or totally by Artists for Humanity. So there's going to be that relationship as well. And we've already spoken with them about their involvement with this project. So the commercial masonry base of the building is designed to reflect the masonry traditions of the buildings in the adjacent areas. And the residential tower or residential portion of the building, I shouldn't say tower, it's still low rise, sits back from the street and is of a different materiality and a different proportional and different nature than the rest of the building. We imagine that on the Ziegler and Warren Street corner of the building, which is where you see the copper swooping gesture, that's kind of the front door to the building and will be kind of a community living room, which you can see from the Nubian Square bus station. Next slide, please. So there's that view looking toward that co-working entry space and that kind of living room aspect that we discussed. And again, the masonry materiality of the building relates to the neighborhood. The upper floors of residential are set back, creating open space for the residents and giving the building a smaller presence on the street. Next slide, please. Next, we have some views that are showing the building in context at a little more of an eye-level perspective. This is at the intersection of Dudley and Warren, looking down toward Nubian Station and the bowling building on the left. And roughly to the left of where the scale figure on the drawing is where the residential entry to the building is, and that's the art walk immediately to our right on the corner. Next slide, please. An aerial view looking from kind of the top floor of the bowling building, more or less, maybe a little higher, down on the building. Again, you can see that generous setback of the residential component of the building stepping back away from Warren Street, and that big swooping gesture pointed toward Nubian Station and facing toward the heart of Nubian Square. Next slide, please. Similar view looking more into Nubian Square and kind of highlighting that relationship of the cornice again to the Palladio building. Next, please. And I think this is the last view. This is standing under the canopy at Nubian Station, kind of in front of the cafe at the bowling building, looking toward our building, and you can see the presence that gesture has from a distance, looking toward it. Next slide. And that concludes our presentation. So I'll turn it back over to Ebony and to Jeffrey if you'd like to comment.
No. Ready for questions if you have any.
Great. Well, thank you for that presentation. Board, do you have any questions from the board?
I do. Did somebody else speak, or do I have the floor? I do have a question. That seemed to be a lot of retail space, and I know hopefully this was a temporary situation, but with retailers across the country and in the greater Boston area struggling, if you have vacancies in there, it can cast a pall on the entire building. What's the plan to keep it active, vibrant, and full?
Well, we have basically 4 frontage spaces on that first floor. One is the entry up to the commercial incubator and workspace on the 2nd and 3rd floors. One is a commercial space. One is the lobby for the residential building. And then there's the 4th one, which is another commercial space. So we really have 2 commercial spaces, and they're fairly modest. So I can imagine a scenario whereby we could have temporary display space in there. We could have some of that, looking for words here, the workspace on the 2nd and 3rd floors flowing down into it. Also, the New Urban Collaborative is planning on maintaining a presence in Nubian Square. One of those spaces could be occupied by them. And then I think there are a number of other folks that the developer has spoken with that could potentially take up space there. But in terms of relationship to the COVID situation that we're in directly, I can't speak directly to that, because this building will be coming online and it'll, 2 to 3 years from now, and the circumstances could be very different.
Sure. And I just have one follow-up question. What was the consensus in the neighborhood on the height?
So the consensus on the height that we received, we didn't get any pushback on height. We followed pretty strictly the guidelines set forth in the RFP that the city released. And as I mentioned, we tried very hard to bring the street presence of the building down into scale with the things immediately adjacent to it, across the street, as well as the Palladio building and other things. Given the fact that it's kind of at the bookend of Nubian Square, if you will, we felt like it was an appropriate place to add density and go a little bit taller in the step back, but still keeping things under high rise and at a relatively modest 6 stories.
Only bring it up because you mentioned tower inadvertently, but
yeah, that was not a Freudian slip. That was just
all right. Well, thank you.
Nervousness. Sure.
Yeah, I just want to commend the architects for a design that generates some dialogue with the architecture of the bowling building. And it does strike me that this is the kind of building wherein if traditional commercial retail users are not readily available, there may be some public sector uses related to having the school department directly across the street and other public facilities in that immediate area that may have some use for that space. So I commend you on moving forward courageously with an innovative design for that building.
Thank you.
I had one question, which is, given that this is public land, are these affordable units permanently affordable? I'm hoping to hear that these are going to be in perpetuity affordable units?
Yes, that, excuse me, that is the intent. Yeah, and it will be a rental building, so there's no, necessary deed restrictions or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, I agree with Ted. I think it's a super cool looking building, a little swoop thing. I like that. So hearing and seeing none, motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great job. Okay, item number 18. Request authorization to adopt an order of taking for parcels of land located at India Street and Franklin Street within parcel D-7, aka block 214, parcels 1 and 2, in the downtown waterfront Faneuil Hall urban renewal area. Project number Mass R-77 for the 55 India Street project to adopt a confirmatory order of taking for parcels of land in Wells Street within parcel D-7 and to execute a deed to BRG 55 India LLC for said parcels, a land disposition agreement, and any and all documents necessary in connection with parcel D-7 and or the discontinuance of portions of India Street, Franklin Street, and the confirmatory taking of portions of Wells Street. Raul.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Director Golden, Madam Secretary, members of the board. By way of background, on March 12, 2020, this board voted to approve the revised 55 India Street project proposed on a 7,100 square foot parcel located directly across the street from the Rose Kennedy Greenway and bound by India Street to the north, Franklin Street to the west, Wells Street to the south, and the John Fitzgerald Service Road to the west. The project was most recently approved. The project, as it was most recently approved, consists of a 12-story mixed-use building with approximately 4,000 square feet of retail space and 29 condominium residential units, of which 5 will be designated as IDP units. In order for the project to proceed with construction, the city requires the discontinuance and transfer of air rights of portions of India Street, Franklin Street, and Wells Street, with the BPDA serving as a partner, intermediary, and co-petitioner in this process. As such, in this board action today, we're seeking your authorization to co-petition the city's Public Improvement Commission for the discontinuance of portions of India, Franklin, and Wells Street, which are also within parcel D7 in the downtown waterfront Faneuil Hall urban renewal area. Adopt a confirmatory order of taking for parcels of land within Wells Street, within parcel D7, and lastly, authorize the director to execute and enter into all the necessary agreements in connection with these actions. Happy to take any questions from that.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.
Two. Okay, item number 19, request authorization to issue a certificate of completion to Treburshaw Limited Partners for the 484 Tremont Street project known as Castle Square, located on parcel 1 in the South End Urban Renewal Plan area, project number Mass R-56. In accordance with section 304 of the second supplementary land disposition agreement. Chris.
Hey everyone, thank you Madam Chairwoman Rojas, members of the board, Madam Secretary. My name is Christopher Breen, Urban Renewal Manager. As stated, before you is a request to authorize the director to issue a certificate of completion for the 484 Tremont Street project, better known as Castle Square, aka Parcel 1 in the South End urban renewal area. The certificate of completion is in relation to the second supplementary LDA issued in regards to the Castle Square rehabilitation project of 2010. This rehabilitation project made improvements to the building envelope, the windows, the roofs, and the water filtration systems, the building systems, the heating, the ventilation, the HVAC systems, the energy efficiencies throughout the structure, the overall unit upgrades, including flooring, common area improvements, and vertical additions for increased community space. In addition, they created 25 fully accessible dwelling units, as well as retail space improvements on the ground level. Other details can be found in the 2020 board memo and the subsequent 2010 second supplementary LDA for the 11.3 acre, 500 unit site. On July 30th, 2020, building management submitted a request for a certificate of completion. BPDA staff, including myself, inspected the project this past August 25th and found the improvements were constructed in accordance with the approved final working drawings and specifications. Thank you for your time, and let me know if I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have any questions from the board?
This was a renovation project. When was the original Castle Square completed?
It was a 1992 refinance. The original year would have been early 70s. I would have to double check. Let me see. I can pull it up.
A very early BRA project.
Yeah. So this is so Castle Square is Parcel 1. It's the very first. It actually predates the South End Urban Renewal Plan. So we were planning for this prior to 1965 when we were kind of going through the South End Urban Renewal community meetings for the South End Urban Renewal Plan. So this Castle Square Parcel 1 was incorporated with the South End Urban Renewal Plan, 1965. So it would have been right after that. So late 60s, early 70s, probably by the time it opened. I can check the deed when the BRA it sold it, if you like.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Chris. Okay, we did the public hearing already. Item number 21. Request authorization to execute a voluntary compliance agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development regarding certain measures for the BRA to formally implement in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and its associated federal regulations and executive order, and more particularly relating to language access obligations. Renee.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. During the last few months, staff has been engaged with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on implementing formal measures for the BPDA to provide language access obligations when reviewing and engaging the community on plan development areas and large project review under Article 80 of the Boston Zoning Code. The negotiations with HUD was in response to a complaint filed by 2 community groups alleging that the BRA failed to provide meaningful access to its review under the code of the Suffolk Downs Development Project. In response to the complaint and information provided by BPDA staff to HUD, HUD sought informal resolution of the complaint through a voluntary compliance agreement. HUD also requested information from the city through the Department of Neighborhood Development and included the city as a party under the VCA, the Voluntary Compliance Agreement. Many of the provisions that HUD introduced under the VCA included initiatives that the BPDA and city had already been working on. The agreement highlights the agency's and the city's commitment to equitable and inclusive access by formalizing an implementation of measures that would expand language and communication access for Boston residents. The agreement includes The agreement includes certain provisions for the BPDA to take following actions: to approve a formal written non-discrimination policy for BPDA programs and activities, to formalize a written language access plan and require proponents for Article 80B and 80C projects to create and implement project-specific language access plans, to develop more community engagement initiatives to the Article 80B and Article 80C review process under the BPDA and coordinate community events, forums, and listening sessions with project managers at least twice a year. In addition, the BCA required expanded outreach for the Suffolk Downs project by conducting 3 additional community meetings in Spanish and in Arabic in East Boston. Those 3 meetings have been completed. The VCA, as agreed upon by HUD, is attached to the board memo. BPDA staff recommends that the director, on behalf of the agency, be authorized to execute the HUD VCA. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
Well, I just will say in general, I think it's always good to try to improve our ways of making the work we do accessible to all. As Julia Mejia says, all means all, and it's on us as an agency to I think this agreement reflects us being more proactive in offering all the work we do in multiple languages so that all the residents of Boston can participate and know and understand what we're doing. I think it's extremely important. So thank you for to all the staff for working on this with us.
Yeah, I just want to +1 on what Carol says. I had the opportunity to go to one of the Spanish, Arabic, English presentations and participate virtually. And while it took a little getting used to in the beginning, right? And going slow and following instructions, a lot like what we've had to do to kind of keep these meetings going. You know, it was effective, I thought. You know, it's different. It's definitely more effort, but it's the right thing. And so I'm very happy as well to see all of the what has come out of this this particular instance on one project, but what we're going to be able to do for all projects, right? Where this is where we need this. So. Cool. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, I have a comment, Priscilla, but what's come out of it, I think, is the facts that there was over 450 community meetings, and every single meeting had a Spanish interpreter. And as you said, there was 2 separate just for Spanish language and the Arabic. So it's making the kind of saying that they did something wrong. There was a Spanish interpreter at every single of those 450 meetings.
You know, I don't think necessarily this that we could debate. I mean, I think there, you know, there was enough to call to question, right? For additional actions to be had. I think the process is better for that. And the new meetings were done in a different way than the other 415 meetings. And, you know, again, but you know,
but he had to improve on it all.
Well, I think that there was an improvement based on my observations, and I think you know, it also led to collaboration with multiple agencies and the community, and for that I think that is valuable. So,
if I may, Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that in our discussions with HUD and with the project proponents for Suffolk Downs and with staff, really what we focused on, and also because the city was brought into the HUD, the agreement and the negotiations with HUD, was to formalize a process, one that we were already working on, in particularly because of the changes with, having to go online and with the pandemic. And so it really became more of an opportunity for us to formalize a process and a procedure, which we are still working out right now, the final details. We've done a lot of work. The project managers, the planners have really been working very hard and trying to figure out what makes sense for our outreach. And I think that it's been a great process in terms of making sure that we are more inclusive and that we are doing more outreach that we weren't doing as much of before, and really just formalizing that process. And it's going to be helpful. It already is helpful for staff as well as the community. So that's really what we wanted to focus on. And also with what happened with Suffolk Downs, while there was much community engagement and there was Spanish interpretation, that, really the focus was just to say, okay, we're in a pandemic now. Let's make sure we outreach to everyone. We had to do it in different ways. We had to talk to HUD and the city about it, and that's what we did, and that's what we implemented. And so I think that as a result, we were able to get to more folks as well.
okay. Thank you for that additional insight, Renee. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Item number 22, personnel. Jamie. Welcome back.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Jamie Lamarco with the Human Resources Department. We have one appointment. Happy to say Lauren Shirtliff, promotion to Director of Planning within the Planning Department with an effective date of September 14th, 2020. And then there are two status changes for your consideration. Stacy Watson, Senior Contract Compliance Officer within the Compliance Department, as well as Aaron Hallquist, Assistant Compliance Manager within that same department, with retroactive and temporary salary adjustments for an implementation of September 14th. All of the details to these three items are listed within the board memo, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a motion is in order.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. Okay, item number 23, my favorite, Carol's favorite, contractual. I need a motion to pay the bills.
I move that we pay our bills.
I would second that motion.
Okay. Roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs?
Aye.
Mr. Monahan?
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Please pay those bills. Final item, director's update. Director Golden, floor is yours. You're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the members. Good evening. This week, the BPDA notified the East Boston community that we'll be holding a special virtual public hearing for the Suffolk Downs redevelopment on Thursday, September 24th at 5:30 p.m. So I just wanted to give you the public a bit of an advanced preview of what's coming. Normally, when we adjourn this evening, we come back a month from now for a monthly board meeting. Because of the significance, the size, the scope, the complexity, the extraordinarily lengthy, robust process associated with the Suffolk Downs redevelopment, we've decided that the most appropriate way to manage public participation in a board proceeding on that subject was to set aside a board proceeding just for that matter. So instead of trying to wedge something that big into the October board meeting or the September board meeting, we've taken the unusual step of carving out a special board proceeding. It will take place September 24th at 5:30 p.m. And you know, this hearing will allow ample time for the community residents to participate, and for the development team and this agency, the BPDA, to respond to questions from the community and the board without feeling undue anxiety about time pressures associated with a board proceeding that was considering multiple matters. So it will be held in Zoom, just as this one has been, and simultaneous translation services will be provided on September 24th in both Spanish and Arabic. Like our monthly board meetings, including this one, this meeting on the 24th of September will be broadcast live on Boston City TV, on cable channels, and online at boston.gov. And we will accept both virtual testimony during the meeting and email testimony that arrives before the meeting that evening. Normally I say goodbye to you in the evening and see you again 4 to 5 weeks hence. We're going to see each other in 2 weeks. Thank you for the appointment of a director of planning, a permanent director of planning. Earlier this afternoon, you voted to name Lauren Shurtleff as the agency's director of planning. Lauren has been with the agency since 2007. She came in at an entry-level position, a graduate of Boston College, and received her planning credential at the London School of Economics. So Lauren arrived here not long after completing her graduate work, after working briefly, I believe, in New York City. And she's been with us ever since. So she came from the junior levels to the middle levels, and now is moving into the top job in a permanent sense. She has been, up until right now, both the deputy director for downtown and neighborhood planning, and has served as interim director of planning since early 2019. Throughout her time at the agency, Lauren's helped expand our community engagement team and find new innovative ways to meet our residents where they are and engage them about the things they truly care about. So I ask you and all staff and all the public who's had the good fortune of working with Lauren over the years to join me in congratulating her on her well-deserved new role, where she will continue to help guide Boston into a more equitable, resilient, and inclusive future. So congratulations to Lauren Shurtleff, and thank you again for your positive vote.
Yay! Congratulations, Lauren.
Finally, I want to salute the BPDA team that has been working on the return of students, undergraduates and graduate students to Boston for months now. we have been working in a collaborative effort with other city agencies, some professionals outside of government all together. John Auerbach, a really wonderful person, has been providing us advice. John was the Commissioner of Public Health for the state DPHD years. Before that, he was the Executive Director of the Boston Public Health Commission. He now works in public health at a foundation in Washington, D.C., but John's been providing us some key information associated with sound public health practices and methodologies that will help protect Boston and the students who return to Boston to attend school. So we've had a very collaborative effort inside government and outside government. Our work has been led by Nupur Monani. Nupur joined us just before the COVID pandemic hit Boston in the United States, but Nupur has really played a very important role in coordinating information transmission and receiving responses from the 26 plus colleges and universities in Boston, making sure we know what the public health precautions they are taking are as students return to campus, what the testing regime will look like, what the contact tracing will look like, what the quarantining and isolation will look like as we continue to manage the disease. So a lot of work has gone on into this in recent months. About 40,000+ students, 40,000 plus have come back to Boston. Normally we have well over 100,000, but we've got tens of thousands of students who've returned in the work of Nupur and Gerald Ottler in institutional planning and Eddie Carmody in development review. They've been working closely with the universities to make sure that students return safely, that there are plans in place for them to live safely within the city and prevent the spread of the disease. This is really important work as we take steps to recover in the realm of higher education. So thanks to all the BPDA team that has played a really important role in making that happen. So with that, have a great evening. It was nice to see you tonight, and I look forward to seeing you again on September 24th at 5:30 p.m. for the Suffolk Downs redevelopment proceeding before this board. So good evening, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Golden. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call for a vote. Ms. Downs.
Aye.
Mr. Monahan.
Aye.
Dr. Landsmark.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes, meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for your participation. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.